Welcome to Retire with Clarity. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by John Lawton and Chris Massenburg. They're managing partners of Open Air Advisors. Chris, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. John, how are you?
Doing great. Good to see you.
It's good to see you both. And thank you so much for taking the time to come in and do this show, because I know you've been busy in all three of your office locations. The appointments have just been amazing. The show is doing very, very well for you. Chris, are there any questions that you're being asked by your clients more than anything else? Any one that sticks out?
You know, I think the question in today's environment that I get asked a lot is it's generally around uncertainty, around politics, and should we make changes in the market based on what's happening politically?
Sure.
And then obviously with the ongoing coronavirus, that's also something that's a major concern, as you can imagine. So those are kind of primary questions that I get. And, you know, a lot of times when we're putting together plans, all of those things, you know, the political environment matter a lot in the short term. But when we're talking about a 30-year retirement plan, that has very little impact in that long-term plan on what's right for each individual person. So, you know, but I think overall the level of uncertainty is very high for a lot of folks. So kind of easing those concerns that people have and kind of going through and building the plans obviously helps. So.
Sure, absolutely. And John, let me ask you a question. Are you seeing a lot of your clients face-to-face now in the office? Are you still doing some Zoom calls? Is it a mixture?
We're doing a little of both, and we do have facilities available. In fact, we have a really nice large round table in my office that gives us plenty of room to be social distance when we are seeing people face-to-face. We are doing Zoom meetings and would be happy to you know, that's one of the things that we've learned this year is how to effectively have a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
So we are doing those as well.
Okay.
But we're doing a mix of both and having a good time.
Okay, and absolutely the most important thing that we talk about every week on the show is planning properly for retirement, because so many people enter the retirement years and maybe they're grabbing their statements out of the mailbox and they think that's a plan, but Chris, that's not really a plan, is it?
No, you know, having the accounts and doing the saving, I always say, is the hard part. You know, but it also is just as challenging to put all those pieces together. You know,
Sure.
if you've got 5 different statements coming in, how do they work together?
Yeah.
Right? Are they different tax classifications, traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, after tax buckets, you know, and then like we always talk about, how do you take this large nest egg of savings at retirement and then all of a sudden turn it around so that it pays you a paycheck for the rest of your retirement years because you're not going to be working anymore. And then how do you get it to pay you enough to live the lifestyle that you want to live? So having all those pieces is great, and we can't do planning without having those pieces. So if you don't have the assets to do the planning, then it makes it difficult. But if you have the assets, there should be no reason why you don't have a plan in place.
Absolutely, just to have that peace of mind, which is so important when you're approaching retirement. Well, I didn't get a chance to tell you guys this earlier, but we've had a lot of really amazing viewer questions come in through the weeks. So I wanted to do a show today just geared towards those viewer questions. Is that okay? I know you have no idea what's coming.
That's right.
This will be fun.
Improv's a hobby. Yeah.
Well, Chris, since you're right next to me, I'm going to start with you. So this is a great question. It says, Chris, how do you set up investments and assets to avoid the death tax?
Well, there's lots of ways to do that. You know, I would say that when they bring up, or when someone brings up kind of the death tax, it's geared obviously towards estate planning. And so partnering with estate attorneys, making sure all of the documents are in place, the legal documents you need in order to pass assets, and then also having proper beneficiaries named on accounts. You know, but estate tax, whenever you're gone, that limit is very high nowadays. Okay. So I would say for a lot of folks that's not a huge factor, but it wasn't long ago that it was much, much lower as far as the estate tax threshold. Okay. So you definitely want to have a plan in place, and there's lots of different tools we can use to help plan for that. You know, Roth IRAs or Roth conversions are a great tool to get passed to the next generation without taxes. Okay. So there are some things that we can do, and I hate to give the "it depends" answer, but for each circumstance and each person, it's fairly unique, and so there's different tools we can use for each person.
Okay, yeah. Chris, thank you. John, this question is for you. It says, what exactly is rebalancing a portfolio, and is it necessary?
Sure. Rebalancing a portfolio is simply Well, first off, when we look at a plan, we're going to have, inside an account, we're going to have different asset classes that we use. And I'll just give you the two big ones, stocks and bonds. We've all familiar with stocks and bonds.
Okay.
You know, this year our stocks have done well. Our bonds haven't performed as well. And so when that happens, now we have more risk in the portfolio than what we assigned it when we first started the plan. And so what we do on I'm going to say a regular basis, it could be quarterly. Sometimes we'll let them, if we have momentum, we might let things run for a little bit. Sometimes when we have a lot of volatility, maybe we rebalance more often. But basically it's selling those equities so that we get the overall mix back in line with where we established it from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes, just to add to that point, it's not just equities that perform well. You know, we do have, if interest rates drop dramatically, then your bond portfolio is actually going to perform well. It's a kind of an inverse effect, but to his point, the rebalancing is super important in my mind, because you get too far out of line one way or the other, and we've talked about it in past shows. You know, too much risk and not enough risk are equally dangerous, if you ask me. So you want to rebalance and keep that risk right in line with your overall goals.
Okay. And Chris, actually what you're mentioning is kind of tying in line with the next question. It says, what is the best way for someone to diversify their risk and reduce volatility?
Well, there you go.
You couldn't get a better timing than that.
You're welcome on the tie-in. So you know, having that balance between equities and bonds is a great way to start, get that diversification, but also breaking up even further in different equity classes, small cap companies, mid cap companies, large cap companies. Then you look at bonds. You've got short term duration, so the length of the bond, you know, Treasury, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, you know, how far out does that bond go? So you get different diversification in the length and the terms of the bonds. And then you can also get different diversification in the tax classifications. So if you're buying municipal bonds, you know, you avoid that tax that you would normally get on regular bonds in an after-tax account. Okay. So there's different ways, and the more diversified you can get in different asset classes, generally speaking, the better overall your portfolio should do, because you're not overexposed to any one area.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is the perfect time for us to open up the phone lines, actually, to the viewers at home. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
To the viewers at home, the phone number on your screen is the one to call, 844-333-6059. What you're calling in for today is the complimentary portfolio review. If you're not sure exactly where you are in your retirement plan, this will provide peace of mind and clarity. This offer is available to the first 10 callers only. Once again, the number to call is 844-333-6059. Viewers, this is your show today, so don't go away. You don't want to miss. These are all of your questions. We're going to have some more answers when we come back after this very short commercial break.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Retire with Clarity. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by John Lawton and Chris Massenburg. They're managing partners of Open Air Advisors. Gentlemen, a great show we're having today, and I love it because it's all viewer questions, and so we're going to get through quite a few of these today. I know the viewers are going to be so excited. So, John, this next one's for you. Question is it possible for viewers to reduce their taxable income by contributing money to a 401k or similar retirement plan at work?
Sure. That's a great question, and we get that one a lot. You do have the ability, as you contribute to your 401k, you are reducing your taxable income for the year. So whatever dollars that you're putting into that 401k, whenever you look at the amount of dollars that you made for that year, they're reduced by the amount that goes into a traditional 401k. I said traditional 401k because that's a really important piece.
Okay.
When we do full financial planning, you're looking at the taxes for 1 year, but I think that Chris and I do a really good job of looking at not your taxes just for 1 year, but looking at them today and what the life of your plan.
Sure.
And so when we look at that, there are different buckets to contribute to because maybe it is the traditional 401k, but recently we're seeing more and more Roth 401ks that are available for different employers. They're not available for everyone, meaning it's up to the plan provider. It's just up to the company, do they offer it or not. But I would say when we do that full financial plan, we have to make that decision. Which one's the right one? Which one's the best one for you? And there's no blanket advice. I can't tell one person this is the answer every time, always. It really is individualized to your plan.
Okay.
And it really does matter. Where are you on that path towards retirement?
Yeah.
Are you in the first stage? How close are you? So everyone's situation is different. But really getting started with what's available with that 401k, I think is really important.
Yeah, I think another important aspect to the 401k planning is does your company offer a match? Are they matching funds that you're contributing?
Great point.
I think, we often refer to it, and John's pretty adamant about calling it free money.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You don't want to leave it on the table, right?
Yeah.
So if your employer does offer a company match on the 401k plan, you should absolutely look at contributing at least the maximum amount you need to take full advantage of that match. I think that's, generally speaking, a great idea. But as John said, there's no blanket advice for everybody, but I think that's a great way to make sure you don't leave any money on the table, because the company definitely considers it part of your benefits that they pay you when they round out how much you're getting paid every year, medical, company match, and actual overall annual income.
Sure.
I had someone come in the other day and they were apprehensive about giving us a call because the only assets they had were that 401k. And they thought, well, I don't know if we should really call these guys. And what was really interesting about that situation is they came in my office and they said, John, I'm contributing the max to my 401k. I'm contributing the max. And so after doing the review and doing a portfolio review, looking at the overall situation, they were contributing to the maximum to get the full match, like what Chris was talking about. But for their overall situation, there was a lot more that they could do to benefit themselves inside that 401k that they weren't taking advantage of. And these folks are nearing retirement, and there's a lot that they can do to maximize what we're doing now, both with future income, with taxes, and just with investment planning to get them to where they're going to be able to meet their goals.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. That was an excellent answer, both gentlemen. Okay, this is a great question, Chris, and this is kind of an investment question, if you will. This caller called in and said, how do you guard against huge losses like 2008 when recessions hit?
Well, we just go to the crystal ball at the office. We just make sure that we understand. Make sure we understand when that's going to happen. But no, there's plenty of ways, and there's plenty of tools that we can use as planners, as independent fiduciaries. There's plenty of tools that we can use to help alleviate some of those concerns.
Okay.
You could add money to cash buckets if you're really concerned about it, but then you're going to lose to inflation because there's no interest being paid on savings accounts and CDs. It's very minimal. So you might lose to inflation over time by just holding on to cash. You can invest in bonds, which are generally considered a safer asset class, but then you run interest rate risk and credit risk, which John talks about all the time. There's different levels of credit risk depending on the bonds that you're buying or owning. So there's other ways. Diversification will help you eliminate some of those big swings in markets.
Okay.
Annuities can be a tool that you can use to lean on where they have principal protections or principal guarantees in annuities. So basically, all the principal you put in, and some indexed annuities that we've looked at, that principal is protected. So if you do have another situation like a 2008, or I guess we can start saying a March 2020 now.
I know, true, yeah.
You know, that 3-week period, I guess, where it did that, that asset will be, in a lot of cases, again, I don't want to speak generally because there's hundreds of different versions of that one product, but if we find one that works for you and alleviates that concern, that's really the goal. As we've mentioned in prior shows, we don't care which tool we use as long as it's the right tool for the job.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you so much, Chris.
You're
John,
welcome.
this is a great question too. Is there a certain age where people should limit their exposure to the stock market? What is your opinion on that?
What's really interesting is Chris really alluded to this earlier in this show, and we've talked about it in other shows. There's a balance. There's always a balance. So I've seen it, and we've had folks come into our office where they've actually reduced their exposure to equity markets too much.
Okay.
Because they're, again, it's like that. Stuart calls it the Rubik's Cube, and every time we move one of the pieces, the others come around, and as we're solving that Rubik's Cube for our clients, we do need to have a balance between risk and reward, and having the right amount of risk, not too much, not too little. Have too little, then just like Chris said, we're losing out to inflation.
Sure.
Too much, we're too exposed to the March 2020s and the 2008s and those time periods that really keep us up at night. And so just striking that right balance for our clients to help them meet their goals, but do it in the way that they want to.
Yeah, and if I can add to that too,
Please.
This is such a great question, because there's, generally speaking, even if you're younger, it's believed that you should still not have all your money in one bucket, just all in
eggs in one
equities. Yeah, I mean,
basket,
we've all heard that, right?
Yeah.
So you want to have that diversification. Now it could be 90% equities, 10% alternative. So depending on age, you want to have that structure and generally speaking, reduce risk as you get closer to retirement or as you're in retirement. But to John's point, what I've seen people do in the past, and not everybody, but some people, think that they can time markets it's not a great time right now, let me reduce all my risk now, and then when it's a better time, I'll get more exposure to equities. And I can tell you that is not a viable plan that's going to work for most people. If you want to go with that plan, you should also consider buying lottery tickets. I think that they're both very comparable. You can't time markets. It's not feasibly possible. But what happens is, to kind of round out that point, they will reduce equity exposure, and then they'll be sitting on the sideline and miss big returns.
Yeah.
And then they're too afraid to get back in at all, because if you sell your equities at the Dow being 30,000 because you think it's too high, are you going to buy it at 35?
Exactly.
Are you going to buy it at 40?
Yeah.
And then if it goes to 20, you're not going to buy it there either, because you're still scared of that downturn.
Sure.
Some of the most expensive words in our industry are "this time is different."
Yeah.
That costs people a lot of money.
Wow.
So.
Well, gentlemen, this is the perfect time for us to reopen up the phone lines. Then we're going to come back to more viewer questions. To the viewers at home, the phone lines are now open. That number to call is 844-333-6059. If you have questions about where you are on your path to retirement, this is a complimentary consultation that will give you an idea if you're on the right track to retire comfortably. It's a complimentary portfolio review. And again, this offer is available to the first 10 callers only. The number is 844-333-6059. When we come back, we're going to have more of your viewer questions, so please stay tuned.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Retire with Clarity. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by John Lawton and Chris Massenburg. They're managing partners of Open Air Advisors. And gentlemen, a great show we're having today. Obviously, all of the viewer questions, they're amazing because they're pulling in all of our different shows and kind of encapsulating it in one show, if you will. So I don't want to miss out on any more time. So Chris, I'm going to jump to you for a question. This is a great one. Chris, why do some annuities seem to have a negative stereotype?
Well, that is a great question. I think we've all seen or heard of, at some point in time, there was commercials run, don't buy annuities, I hate annuities. A hard line in the sand on one particular investment vehicle versus another, I think is a dangerous stance for anyone. Whether it's I'm all stocks, all equities, or all annuities, all insurance, I think having that hard stance one way or the other is dangerous. Because again, we've talked about it in this show, we've talked about it in the past, certain vehicles or certain tools are right for certain jobs. Does everyone need an annuity? Absolutely not. It's not right for everybody.
Sure.
Can they fit in certain situations? Yes. I think where they get that negative stereotype is that a lot of people end up with annuities for the wrong reasons. And maybe it's, I couldn't speak to the reasons that people get them, but maybe they don't understand how they work, or they just know they hear the safety and the principal guarantee or principal protections that they have. But a lot of times they end up in the wrong kind for their situation. I run into people sometimes who have annuities that are designed to be income replacements, sort of a self-funded pension. It has an income rider, pays you a lifetime income, but this person doesn't need any income. They're literally only taking the required minimum distributions every year because that's all they need to live. They're living off Social Security or another type of pension, but here they have this annuity with this income rider and they don't need it. So it's a tool being used for the wrong purpose, or it ended up in the wrong hands, the wrong client, I should say. So that's maybe where the stereotype comes in. And then some have fees that people are not aware of. So variable annuities we kind of pick on from time to time because they do have costs associated with them. They're invested in the market. And then, so there's your risk, right? It does have the underlying mutual funds in there, which are market driven in most cases. And then you pay for that mortality expense fee or those fees to own the actual product. So the cost adds up every single year, year over year. And if it doesn't do exactly what you thought it was going to do, you're just paying for something that you maybe didn't need. And so I think that leaves a sour taste on that product sometimes. Sure,
that makes total sense. Thank you, Chris. John, this is a great question. It says, what is the difference, please, between a will and a trust? I'm confused.
That's a great question, and I'll say this: I'm not an estate planning attorney, but I work with a lot of really great estate planning attorneys. A will is simply the document that, if you were to pass away, that's the document that distributes the assets. Where a trust is actually something that we establish now, where you can put your assets into now that can protect them from different situations, different risks. And the advantage is I think that a lot of us out there, if you talk to some of the clients and you've got clients that have gotten into a situation around probate. And I think that can be a really scary word. Having to go through that process and the time and the expense. And interesting enough, last year, I had a client pass away who they had property in multiple states. And so now they're having to do probate in each one of the states where they had those properties. And so it's not a one-time event in one county. It's really spread out and all over the place. And some simple planning and just talking to a qualified estate planning attorney would give you the ability to look at options for that to reduce the amount of work that your heirs are going to have to do. But we have them that are in our office that will meet with you and talk you through what's the right choice for you.
And if I could just add in that scenario, if you've got property in multiple states, you want to consult attorneys within those states.
That's right.
Not just the state you live in, because a trust here might be different than a trust in Idaho.
That makes sense.
If you're in Texas where we are, it's very different state to state. At least it can be.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you consult multiple attorneys.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
This is a great question. It says, Chris, I am 10 years away from retirement. What should I be doing today? 10 years away from retirement.
Well, congratulations, you're almost there. Keep going. Saving is obviously the most important. Start thinking about what you want to do in retirement and how you want to live, what that lifestyle, your ultimate retirement dream, if you will. Do you want to spend more time with family, or do you want to travel the world? What's that ideal scenario really look like for you? And then you want to focus paying down debts. You don't want to have a lot of debts going into retirement or obligations that you have to pay in retirement that can eat up that retirement income you have to pull from retirement portfolios. So we're going to eliminate that as best as possible going into these last few years. And then you want to start thinking about Social Security. You want to start thinking about Medicare and healthcare options when you get to retirement. What's going to be that best fit if you're retiring early, or if you're going to wait to Medicare eligibility. Because that healthcare can be a huge cost for a lot of folks if they retire before Medicare. And then another thing that I think a lot of people overlook: are you going to do something else when you retire?
Yes,
a lot of us think about, well, I'm retired, this is it, nothing, I'm not getting off this couch, this is all I'm doing. But maybe you find another passion and you want to work, or you want to find something part-time, and how's that going to play in? And so I actually enjoy when people tell me that they found something else they're going to do. I have one of my clients that recently started working for the golf course he was going. He's playing golf 3-4 times a week anyway, so he said, well, I just got a job up there working a couple of days a week, now I get to play for free, and I get to do something I love, right? So it ties up his time, so he's not sitting around, eating potato chips on the couch.
Right.
And he gets to play golf for free, so he reduced expense and increased income all at the same time. I think it's a win-win. It
is a total win-win. That is
Plus
awesome.
He'll invite me to come sometimes.
Well, then there you go. That's a true win-win. Gentlemen, I can't believe that we're to the end of another amazing show, because, wow, the time goes so quickly when we're together, and I'm so happy that we were able to tackle some of these viewer questions, because, again, it shows that people are really soaking up the information and they want to know more. So thank you both for another amazing show. To the viewers at home, most importantly, thank you for watching, and thank you for those questions that keep coming in. The number to call is 844-333-6059. We know you have a lot of questions on how to retire with confidence and to retire comfortably. The answers are here for you. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call. Thank you again for watching. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you back here again next week. Keep those questions coming.